Norse and Germanic myth and Bible and their similarities. So, why does history and lineage matter in our family histories and history and everything else? Why repeat the mistakes of the past? And we're here to learn. And I dug into history and a little too much. I found something. These will be from the Prosetta of the Viking myth and scriptures of the Bible. There's evidence that Norse myth is kind of like the same, or it's either offshoot, a different story, or something's going on here. One difference between that the archangels, the Aces maybe, created the world with the frost giants, Ymir's corpse. Okay, and giants are also labeled as Nephilim in the Bible. Though in Norse myth, from what I found about Sigurd, his sword would actually touch the reeds or the little wheat as it crossed by the edge of the sword, the bottom of it. It would pass by it, and I tried to do a little bit of calculation, and turns around 8-9 foot tall, somewhere around in there. So it wasn't really a giant, but it'd be someone like this. And you can see like kids right there, and that person really took, or something like this. It would be a giant. So this goes back to another interesting thing I have a theory about. What does this look like? It's Frodo's house, but that door right there has a nice little knob on the end of it. And you look up green Viking shield, it has all them knobs on the end of it. That looks like the door. So did the hobbits come in and settle in a Viking giant land? Since Lord of the Rings is Norse mythology, essentially. The Shire with Gandalf right there, and they're going in, and it's a bunch of hobbit homes. But what does that look like from history? You look up Viking burial mounds, and it starts to look very similar. And they would hide their ships and everything down there as a burial mound. They would bury their things with them, what they needed for the afterlife, something like the Egyptians. And there's another shot of burial mounds. I think it's a little bit messed up that it could be a possibility that they're building houses within burial mounds that could be giants, and they're hobbits, so it's kind of a little bit funny. But it shows Odin's family mixing in with one another, and they lose that giant trait, or at least it skips generations. And so then you have something like me and my family, where I'm a little bit taller than my mom, and there's my grandmother, offshoot, and then offshoot, and there's my brother, and I'm maybe right here, and my brother's way up here. So he's way past 6 foot tall. And so I'm just about 6 foot. I'm 5'10", somewhere around in there. You can see my height to the door right now. I'm just average. But my brother, he would have to duck his head a little bit and come in here. And so you would see that as a giant and being a little bit taller. And so I tried to do the math of that hobbit door. So you can see him exiting the hobbit door right there, and it's maybe a foot taller than him. So Frodo has a height of 4'1", so he would be around, the door would be around 5'1", somewhere in there. Typical Viking shields were 32, 36 inches, 37 inches across. And so that equals 3 foot 1 inch. The Viking shields were 3 foot 1 inch, and the giants would be me about 6 foot, my brother taller, 6 foot, somewhere in there, the average person. You would take 2 foot and add to that, because Frodo's height, and then a foot, and then maybe somewhere around in there, so you would add a foot. That would equal the giant as Sigurd. It would be a giant shield. That was Frodo's house. So the hobbits could be a generation after the giants, just taking over the land as they bred with people. Could that be possible? With Odin, being the head of the family, watching the Shire. Just little things about history that I know, and then it ties into there and it goes into a deep rabbit hole, and those kind of things I find interesting. So, another one I had about the Tower of Babel. And I had a theory that all myth comes from the Tower of Babel, essentially. There's the truth that really happened, and then the languages spread out. Due to God confusing the languages, different myths and tales came about from twisting the truth like a game of telephone, really. But one angel of Christianity could be considered a god because angels have power and have 10 different names in different cultures. I found that the Horseman of Death has 8 different names, including Azrael, Apollyon, Asclepius or Alcepius. Revelations 9:11. Apollyon is referenced in the Bible with research, and I found that Apollyon opened the ground, hell, to let the fumes escape. And that's another one. Hell in Norse mythology is within the earth. And so you get from the Bible also, when he went inside the tomb, that he went inside the earth to Sheol, which would be hell, and everything coincides with one another. These fumes were escaping to get the Oracle of Delphi to get a little elevated, if you will, and see visions. Some of these names being from Greek myth. These go all the way back to ancient Mesopotamia, and shows one instance of culture and religion mixing together. So could different cultures and religions have the same story, but just different names? It was someone forced to stay in one religion or culture, and they couldn't find out that they both have the same details. Hence the similarities with both the Voluspa, Norse, and Revelation. They both depict a time of Ragnarok, or the end, as it will, and Revelation is what it named. This one says that ship sails from the east, bearing giants over the sea, Loki its captain. The giants are coming together with Fenrir, and Loki too is with them on that voyage, and that's what starts Ragnarok. But from the east. For as lightning cometh out of the east, and shineth unto the west, so shall also be the coming Son of Man. So they can have the same details, and I'll go on with it. And yes, I do know Snorri Sturluson was a Christian and everything else, but he tried to write down the prose in the Poetic Edda to actually write down some of the myths and stuff. In the beginning, Almighty God created heaven and earth. Almatki Os. Old Norse, Almatki Os, the Almighty God. The Aesir. He's like the ultimate Aesir, though. And I'll just let you read that if you want. Pause and read. Chapter 3, it describes an ultimate God. Pause and read. So, chapter 4 gives a creation of the world. He was with frost giants. Though this is not in the Bible, it could be possible, as we do not know what's written down. But the Nephilim were the giants of the Bible.